exclusive interviews with two very prominent figures in Dunamis Rock. Pastor Simon.
So Pastor, sum up all the dream trips you've had in one word.
Awesome!
And James.
And here I am, James Wan, being the interpreter between this lady and my friend from Thailand.
Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of Dream TV. This week we start on a whole new series featuring all of the dream trips we've had. As promised, we'll be releasing never before seen footage and photos from these trips. In this episode, we'll be bringing you back in time to 9 years ago when we ministered to Grace Assembly of God in Banting. Get ready, this is Dream TV.
The year 2000 marked the start of dream trips for Dunamis Rock. Much preparation had to be put in for the smooth running of this trip. Having done drastics before, we wanted to polish up the act on the whole and be ready for what's to come. The youths were also taught how to sculpt balloons for the kids that we would be ministering to. Before we left on this trip, we dedicated our hard work and desire to serve in prayer. We wanted God to use us in every way He could. So we kicked off the trip on 24th November 2000, living via coach from Science Arts Building. As you can see, not only our luggage came along, but we had to also make space for our props and sticks as well. We arrived after a long ride to Grace Assembly of God. Being the curious people that we were, we immediately took a look at the church's service hall on the second floor and our living quarters on the third. Some youths made their way to relieve themselves in the toilets that we were to share with everyone else for the next 3 days. The girls had the privilege of staying in the room, while the guys could only be contented sleeping on our safari beds outside. Now this room was off limits to guys after this point. See the nice bed on the right? This is the last you see of it as Phoebe destroyed it somehow during one of the nights. It soon reached 6 PM and we were down to rehearsals before the Mandarin service starts at 8:30 PM. While some of us practiced for drastics, Charlene and Jairi were busy rehearsing their testimonies in Mandarin. As the Mandarin service started, we performed our first item, which was The Devil is Bad, a song skit with Janan being the devil. Yep, that's him in his evil cloak. The second item we presented was none other than drastics. Look how into character all of us were. Bringing us the word was Pastor Simon, and he had the interpretation done in Mandarin by Pastor Su. As the Lord ministered to the congregation, the youth stepped out and raised their hands in faith during altar ministry. After service at 10 PM, we could finally have dinner at Banting's very own Maxwell Market. See how fast the fried chicken was down by these hungry guys. Following dinner, we went back to rest and were ready for day 2. 25th November marked the second day of Banting 2000. We headed down for some amazing bak kut teh for breakfast. Obviously, some of us were not quite awake yet. Following breakfast, we prepared the handouts that would be given out to the residents. See how the guys playfully stamped Phoebe's hand continuously? Of course, we didn't move out without once again committing the whole session to the Lord in prayer. We prayed that these handouts would encourage the residents to come for the services. Meanwhile, as we were giving out the handouts, the adult leaders had their tummies filled with the best roti tissue ever. Seriously, best roti tissue, man. Taking a break after giving out the handouts, we decided to rest and entertain ourselves. Phoebe and Janan entertained us with some performance. And oh yes, Janan being Janan brought the kiasu Singaporean spirit with him by bringing too much canned luncheon meat and expired as well. So the youths, being crazy, decided to use these for a game of bowling. How fun. Trivia time, did you know? Andy and Charlene actually came straight from school after their last A-level paper. Talk about faith, these two sure needed loads of it leading up to the trip. Moving on, after all those weird games and entertainment, we were preparing ourselves for the Tamil service in the evening. A short briefing was given by James before the service started, and as the service started, it was amazing to worship God without knowing the language that they were singing in, but just to embrace the same living God that we serve. Look at how this little dancing queen dances for a king. James preached, and the Tamil pastor did the interpretation for him. Making new friends, our pastor Simon even had time to say something to this kid. I'm thinking, just maybe, it could be something like, "Yo bro, have you got the glow?" It was really humbling to have the congregation blessing us with applause during drastics when Jesus rose from the dead. Additionally, an impromptu testimony from Jairi was taken up with courage as he shared about his grandfather. Altar ministry was also amazing. Just look at how these people were touched by God. After the service ended, the kids were so intrigued with Isaac's performance that he was made to teach them the demon's beat with the sticks. Yep, Isaac was Satan in drum sticks. Oh yes, and see this young boy? Don't belittle him. He can actually play a 16 beat on the drums even at such a tender age. This brought the second day of our trip to a lovely end. It's a Sunday and we were ready for another great day ahead. Preparing our hearts and minds for what's to come, our worship team was set and ready to lead the congregation into a time of praise and worship. Performing The Devil Is Bad once again, the crowd quickly warmed up to our presence. James also did a little introduction to drum sticks before we performed it. During altar ministry, the Lord moved once again as we saw how He touched different people in the congregation. This man even accepted God as his personal Lord and Saviour. In the afternoon, we ministered to a bunch of amazing kids called the Royal Rangers. They are a uniformed group very much like the Boys Brigade. Cheryl led us in a fantastic time of worship, and just look at how these kids praised the Lord without any inhibitions. It was pretty simple getting these kids to dance. All we had to do was to introduce the actions behind these songs so they could dance along. After worship, we had fun games with these kids. Familiar with the blanket game, the I Guess Your Name First and I Win game? Another game we played was Passing the Message. Look how Rachel eavesdrops to hear how badly and hilarious the messages were being passed us. The Ultimate Balloon Man was up next. Jared keeps the kids wanting more with his balloons. And aww, Andy! During altar ministry, we saw how God moved and touched these young ones. This little girl even accepted Jesus into her life. After taking more photos just outside Grace Assembly, we knew that our ministry for this trip had come to an end. We were glad that God used us for such a magnificent work in Banting. We had one last dinner with Pastor Chris Long and team. Wow, look how sad the youths were. The morning after, we had to have a go at the best roti tissue one last time. Packing up, we said goodbye to Pastor Chris Long and thanking him for opening up his church for our ministry. We were now off for our R&R at Subang Holiday Villa. Here, we had the highlight of our trip, the mountaintop experience. As different youths shared about how God has used them in ministering to Grace Assembly, they also shared about how much they've gained from the trip. With the overwhelming sense of thanksgiving towards the love of God, different ones actually broke down as they shared their testimonies. They would be taking up some, "Excuse me, what is this, please? Change pic now. Thanks. Oi! Change pic! Like now! Ugh. Where did that photo come from, man? Alright, so the next day we set off for home. Even though Banting 2000 had come to an end, I don't think any of us would ever forget how amazing it was.
So here we are at Vivo City. No, we're not here to attend church, but we're here to actually make our way to Ben's hall, where we're going to interview him regarding Banting. We're actually heading to the bus stop, where we normally take our bus to church, and then we're going to take a bus to his hall, and then we're going to have an interview with him. So I'm going to make my way there now. Alright, so here we are at Ben's hall, C. We're going up to his room and then we're going to surprise him. So let's go. So here we are at Ben's room. He should be in.